Alright, part 2. Here we are. Summarize for everyone on YouTube. Last time, we started working on austerity, distilleries, trying to get our economy out of the gutter. And, we just witnessed a hate crime. Not fun stuff. Right, chat? Tsar Vladimir sat in stunned silence as Boris Mosayev, son of one of his senior counselors, recounted his actions. The publication of a photo showing him, along with several others, brutally beating one of his Jewish subjects had spread like wildfire, and while the Tsar had always known the young man to be an idiot, he had not previously known him to be a virulent anti-Semite. The connection between the young man's father and himself was being spoken about more and more, and Vladimir knew he had to take action, and quickly. When he said as much, the young man's eyes went wide. "Sire, I know I have caused you both injury and concern, but I beg you to grant mercy, if not for my sake, then for my father's, who fought with you all the way from Brittany to your palace here." He swung an arm towards the window. "Our family has always been supportive of the crown, and if you grant mercy, I pledge that my father and I after him will always be indebted to you, regardless of need. Please, Majesty, do not let the matter of one Jew undo all that we have done for you." Vladimir considered his words for a long moment. He had to show contrition for the injured man, of course, but Mosayev's family was influential, and make enemies of them, after so many years of loyalty, could inspire others to ask their own long loyalties would similarly be treated so poorly. After a moment, he spoke. "Fine. I will be merciful this time. It will not happen again. And now you may leave. We are busy." Falling over himself with gratitude, Mosayev rapidly retreated as the Tsar called for his secretary to compose a letter to the injured man. He hoped it would be enough. But is it enough? I don't know. With the lamentable state of the current economy, the Tsar's advisors are united in the opinion that a program of austerity must be implemented immediately in order to prevent imminent total collapse. There is simply no money to spend in order to obtain capital for investment in developments. Cuts to other sectors must be made. The only question is how severe the implementation of austerity should be made. The majority of advisors have suggested modernization, applying significant yet reasonable cuts to various public sectors, including healthcare and education. Some, however, have advised the Tsar that drastic times require drastic measures, and the only way to ensure success is to enforce extreme reductions in the budget in every government service, excepting only the military and specially identified initiatives. Cuts of any kind must not be well received by the populace, and so the Tsar must decide how much hardship he believes the subjects will be willing to face. We'll do moderate austerity. I think that's a better choice. What do you miss? You missed a hate crime. You missed a blatant hate crime. The stranger came with the sunrise. He limped into town, blood trailing him from the forest around the village. Sophia had been walking to the market at the time, and she was the first to see him as he stumbled into town. Before he got far, he had slumped to the ground with a deep sigh. As he approached the man, he could see his uniform was stained with blood. His breathing was shallow, and his eyes had glazed over. In a near panic, she called for the village doctor. The young widow brought the man to her home and set him on the couch. The doctor was able to bind the man's wounds, but it would take some weeks for him to recover. Sophia volunteered to care for the man as he recovered. For the first 2 days, the stranger remained unconscious, only occasionally calling out in a foreign tongue. Sophia knew what it was at once. The tongue of a German was unmistakable. Despite the hatred she felt in her heart for the German, she continued to care for him. On the 3rd day, he finally awoke. He had awoken in a panic, though it only lasted a moment. The man looked her in her eyes and spoke in Russian his thanks. Over the next week, he recovered enough to help her around the house. Each day, he would greet her with a smile on his face before beginning the day's chores. Every evening after dinner, she would change his bandages, and they would talk long into the night. Eventually, he had recovered and made known his intent to continue his trek east into Siberia. On the morning he was to leave, she met him outside the spare bedroom. For the longest moment, neither said a word. Finally, he leaned in, and a kiss was shared between the two lost souls. The moment passed all too quickly, and he left the small house in her nameless village. However, unlike so many other times in his life, the stranger left with a promise that he would return someday at the next sunrise. A promise made to be kept. So we got moderate austerity measures. Economic strength will go up a bit. We can do all this. And economic strength and popular support, along with civilian factories. I thought I told you to fill your crimes with love, not hate. You told us. You didn't tell dipshit Boris, apparently. Let's get the legacy of the Empire going. Why not? Decades ago, the Third Rome was a great nation. And then the communists tore it down. They seduced her peasants with lies. They seized the great wealths of her learned citizens. They murdered her rulers as if they were ordinary criminals. And then they failed, twice, at protecting her from rapacious invaders. Although the scars of her crimes remain, there is still hope. Tsar Vladimir, proud scion of the Roman Alps, has returned. This is divine right to rule Russia and its people. And when opportunity presents itself, he will crush the bandits, fascists, communists, and fanatics that have conspired to tear Russia apart. The Third Rome will rise again. Who is that? Who was who? Which event? Imperial Potato Act. Am I the Prime Minister now? You will be when we do this next. After this focus, we have to do Imperial Potato Act now. Anyway, the German guy, yeah, German guy. I forget the exact event chain. I know, he appeared in my Omsk series. He was running away from a bunch of Black Leaguers who wanted to murder him. I think he makes an appearance in in Magadan too. I think he Magadan, I know he makes an appearance in Samara, too. I just remembered. Oscar Jovanka. Not that one. Not that German guy in Russia. Small transport ship pulled into Persian harbor. None took the notice of a gray-haired and bewhiskered old man who had paid the $15 necessary for passage. But not the $20 necessary for a cabin. If they had, they might have noticed both a fire in his eyes and a surprisingly muscular figure that his somewhat tattered clothes could not entirely conceal. Oh, fuck, we should have said it so Steve could make it this far. That would have been great. Damn it. Nikolai Rumyanstev was a man destined from birth to be a soldier. Born in the days of the old Russian Empire, he had seen the corruption and rot present in his homeland, and could not accept it. Unable to stomach the army of his country, but still wanting to fight, he had therefore joined the French Foreign Legion. Marching from one desert fort to another, making friends and enemies alike, he in time saw France as a new home. He did not ever think he would return to Germany. But the war changed everything. With German victory came a malaise in the Legion, and once more Rumyanstev eventually found himself adrift. He considered finding some other small war to die in, but defeat had awakened something long forgotten. He was a soldier, yes, but he was also a Russian. When word reached him of Tsar Vladimir's return, the establishment of a monarchist state in Russia dedicated to fighting communists and fascists alike, he realized eventually that he had to return to the land of his birth, find his Tsar, and serve him in one last war. Regardless of the outcome, he would die as he had lived, fighting. An old man's hope. Damn, I gotta check out this guy, see if he's any good. Is it Rumyanstev? His attack's actually pretty damn good. You know, let's give this old soldier one last battle. Why not? Skirmisher. We'll do a probing attack. Five attack. Yeah, 5 attack's pretty good. The old uniforms are pretty damn good. Let's do offensive. That's all we can do right now. We'll go with it. From the desk in his study, Tsar Vladimir could hear the crowds outside calling for a strong response to the attack on Yakov Rivkin. Though they remained peaceful, and there had been no reports of disorder from the guards watching them, he wished they would go away. He didn't think his migraine would stop until they did. Opening a desk drawer, he withdrew another painkiller from it, swallowing the pill quickly. A knock on the door a moment earlier reinforced his attention, and he called the visitor to enter. Roman Gul, the leader of the reformists, stepped inside a moment later. Yes? Does the council need something? Gul shook his head. No, sire, not currently. He smiled and spread his hands. They just asked me to check on you. We all know how difficult this is. A flash of embarrassment crossed the minister's face. I wanted to say that we are all confident you did the best you could in an unexpected situation. In the Russia I remembered from childhood, nobody would have even considered protesting for the rights of a Jew. Times are different now. Clearly. Yes, sire, they are. And for the better, I would say. Even if things could have perhaps been handled better at the start, we know that you will do the right thing. Gul opened the door again and, with a quick bow, stepped outside, leaving the Tsar with his thoughts. The sound of the crowds outside, and his migraine. It would not stop pounding. He opened the drawer again and withdrew another painkiller. How does an emperor do the right thing? Oh, blimey. Uh-oh. Emperor found as a collaborator. Investigating further the circumstances surrounding the assault of Yakov Rivkin and the continued lack of punishment for Boris Mosayev, the Vyatka Tribune has discovered shocking levels of past and potentially present collaboration with the German Reich at its highest level. It is no secret that Tsar Vladimir III, ruler of a principality and claimant to the Russian throne, assisted the forces of the Reich during the West Russian War. He has claimed, however, that such assistance was not wholly voluntary on his part. Documents obtained by the Tribune make it clear that such claims are false. Copies of messages passed between the Tsar and German representatives in Brittany, the Tsar's former residence during his years of exile, detail the story of an ambitious monarch willing to compromise both of his ideals and the security of his country in the pursuit of personal power. Documents have been reprinted in their entirety within. Continue on page 2. An avalanche builds. The Tsar is he's popping pillies. He's taking Percocets. This is a complete mess, Roman Gul said, tossing the latest edition of Vyatka Tribune onto the desk in front of the assembled functionaries. And the Tsar wants it dealt with. Now. Years ago, Gul had worked for several Soviet and other publications, and that had apparently been qualification enough for the Tsar to appoint him to run damage control. For now, review the Tribune's credentials and respond to any inquiries about the story with a claim of slander. Some functionaries began to move out. And then, schedule interviews with their primary competitors. We need to get our side of the story out. To the staff around him, Gul projected confidence, but inside his own mind, he knew there would be no victory here. The allegations were out, their damages already done, and further claims were already being made. The Tribune, along with many other anti-government publications, had coalesced around it. He began publishing stories about the Tsar's family, about other aspects of his character, about Gul himself. Once he was thrust into the maelstrom. He knew that eventually he would be able to stop the flow of negative press. Every newspaper required access to government to function as anything other than a seditious newspaper. And the Tribune was no exception. They would learn that in short order. But it was the time before that happened that concerned him. And the only person who could shorten that period, by going straight to the source of the whole matter, was the Tsar himself. Gul only hoped that he would make the right decision. At least someone's doing the job right. His portrait looks like he's high off his tits and he can't remember he's on the toilet or not before taking a shit. Oh god, I can't unsee that now. God damn it. Oh. Tsar Vladimir sat at his desk and looked at the letter in front of him. The last few weeks had been a hell unending. The press, the council, his subjects, and even the few ambassadors within the principality had not let him escape, even if for a moment. He had written a personal letter to Yakovlevkin. He'd spoken of his failures, of his regrets, and had humbly offered compensation while asking the man for forgiveness. It would get out and be reprinted, and of course, he would again be hounded for his attempts at mitigation. His attempts at concealment, but still, the Tsar knew in his heart that sending it was the right thing to do. He knew that he should have done this from the start. As a migraine yet again began to develop, however, a part of him rebelled. Why should he, a Tsar and proud member of the House of Romanov, debase himself in front of a commoner? Why should he not burn this letter now and treat this matter with the same disdain that his family would have 50 years ago? He had to make a decision. The migraine was killing him. Wrangel is the rightful Tsar. Not, yeah? You got a point there. Wrangler's not related to the Romanov family, therefore he cannot be Tsar. Right. This is GNO. This is our realistic Nazi victory model where they damped the Mediterranean. Kaiserreich is the wacky one. So we can't have that wackiness here. I think we send a letter. Dear Mr. Rifkin, esteemed citizen of the Empire. Several weeks ago, you were attacked by miscreants in the streets of our capital, an event you no doubt remember with great pain and anguish, the cause of which was your ethnicity and religion. As your sovereign, we apologize in the name of our crown, as well as for the callous letter, not written in our hand, that we sent without serious thought. In the time since we have vacillated between denouncing the hatred that harmed you and protecting your own position, we would like to apologize in the same fashion as above, for the same. We also realize that our apology will likely have little meaning to you, unless accompanied by action. We will therefore take it. For you and your family, we shall compensate for whatever loss was incurred in the attack. For you personally, we shall give a position that my imperial authority shall protect. For all the Jews in our empire, we shall denounce the hatred that has, for so long, harmed their livelihood and survival. Our trusted advisor, Roman Ghoul, has implored us since the beginning to do the right thing. A nebulous concept for a monarch who must not dwell on the morals of her actions indeed. However, I dedicate this last paragraph to you, not as your Tsar, but as one person to another. I do not know if you will find this letter sufficient, but if you will allow me the opportunity to redeem my past actions, I promise, in the presence of the God we both venerate in different ways, I will try. Signed, Vladimir Kirillovich Romanov. A semblance of justice. Our popular support isn't quite there yet, but we'll get to it. We'll get there. As the Tsar solidifies his control and moves to codify court procedures and expectations, the issue of language has suddenly arisen. Though ethnic Russians of course dominate the lands we control, Russia as a whole encompasses many more ethnic groups and languages besides. As a result, a question regarding the official language of court has been raised. Many are surprised that such a question is even being entertained, firmly believing that Russia is a nation for Russians, and that, since Russia is the majority language of the court, regardless, is inherently its official language. Other courtiers, primarily those younger, more liberal-minded, believe that to codify Russian as a sole language would be a step backwards in our attempts to modify the imperial system for the modern age. Both arguments have merit, and exactly what the Tsar's decision is going to be a topic of great debate. Political power stability. I don't know, what do you guys think? Roleplay-wise, what makes sense? Revert back to court language as our example the first. French. You know what? I'm not opposed to that. You know, if the emperor can speak multiple languages, so can the court. And none of them are going to be Russian. That's the big plot twist. We're going liberal. We're going with the cadets. We're going with the best, one of the best unification anthems. What should we go with next? So, Potato, I heard you wanted promotion, huh? The success of Azar's initiative to develop a distillation industry has been successful. Too successful. While employment has risen and much needed hard currency earned from export has begun to enter the economy at long last, we face a serious problem. There is simply not enough potatoes to keep up with demand. We must take action. The solution is the Imperial Potato Act, providing increased subsidies in taxes, land, and labor for farmers who agree to dedicate certain percentages of their arable land to potatoes. The increased production will allow for more vodka to be bottled, which will allow us to begin increasing the amounts of it we export. It won't be long until the Bretons, French, Germans, and more all agree that the finest Russian vodka comes from Vyatka. Chad Russian reunification with French characteristics? Exactly. This is the secret monarchist path for France that Einstein was talking about in the leaks. The secret is that it's not actually in France. It's in Vyatka. Cheeky breeky intensifies, exactly. We still have Berzniki as a puppet. I forget how long that's supposed to last for. Who's messaging me? Oh, it's just game night crap, okay. Okay, I got the new generation of research technology done. Let's get some advanced computing machines. The lore deepens, the plot thickens. Exactly. Exactly. Get the timer back out. Better send a message. Anyhow, we could, the Order of St. George. That's a good one to raid, because they don't have shit, really. Edit mode. Find new markets. What do we want? So we Jewish, but we have a fascist puppet. We're not Jewish. We admit Jewish subjects. We just have a fascist puppet. That part is right. Vladimir is but a conduit from which the ghost of Napoleon can return and have his revenge on Russia. Exactly. I heard that from Einstein, okay? That's true. That's what Einstein told me. I'm not fucking with you guys right now. Someone go back and clip that. Let it be documented officially. I'm sorry I leaked it, Einstein. The Tsar's frequent radio addresses to the Principality are, naturally, a great source of comfort for its citizens, demonstrating to them that their monarch carries them in his thoughts at all times. Following yet another German bombing raid, he's decided to give another. Unusually, he's taken an active role in his drafting, carefully determining both the content and method of presentation, and word is spread that this address is unlikely to be like all the others. From all corners of the realm, the Tsar's subjects huddled around radios, improvised or otherwise, and await the words of their sovereign. There we go. You can also speak on the radio. Uh-oh. Oh. Tito, okay. That's not too bad. I thought it was Ushchaza for a second. Let's increase our popular support. Secret France path as you dig up Napoleon's corpse to become your leader. Wasn't that the plot of a Halloween event? You know, rotten corpses coming up and leading countries. Something like that, at least. I don't know, I never got to play the Halloween event. Okay, let's initiate the raid. They refuse tribute? Okay. Bad. My countrymen, good evening. In these difficult times, I thank you for taking the time to listen to me, wherever you may be. I understand that many of you do not believe me a man to be trusted, a man unconcerned with your welfare. And so for the next few minutes, I ask you to speak to you, not as your czar, but as a fellow Russian. For almost 20 years, we've been crushed under the weight of oppression. To the Soviets, we were little more than cogs in a machine. To the Germans, we were, and still are, seen as little more than animals. Now, it is true that, for a time, I worked with Germans, and at the time I justified it as using one enemy against another. I was wrong. And I now understand why. Only a Russian can understand the depth of suffering and the degree of need of this great country, and I now well understand both. I now pledge to dedicate all my efforts towards counteracting that suffering and satisfying that need. We are all Russians. We are not cogs in a machine. We are not animals to be hunted. We are human beings who want only that peace and prosperity which so many others take for granted. And together we will obtain it. I do not ask for you to blindly trust me, for I know to ask a Russian for trust absent action is folly. I ask only that you watch me earn that trust. I ask only that you allow me to prove the status to which family and God has entrusted me. Russia is in shadow, and I think none would argue that. But together we will find the light, and I ask that in time you trust me to lead the way. May God watch over us all. Well said, Your Imperial Majesty. Man, give a speech, damn. Let's do... Oh, the infrastructure stuff would be nice. Civilian factories, yeah. The Tsar and his government are in agreement that a program of austerity is necessary in order to prevent economic collapse, but consideration must also be given to the effect it will have on our people who are already suffering, have already endured years of suffering. A decision on the severity of austerity has been made by the Tsar, and he has chosen to moderate the proposal. Cuts will be made, some quite painful, but they will be compassionate. The Tsar will not impose undue burdens on his people, and sectors that are identified as critical to the basic needs of the populations will be spared the worst of the reductions. A Russia without its people is no Russia at all. Ooh, okay. Yet another matter has been raised before the Tsar's court, this time concerning prerogatives, as it relates to the aristocracy, and the legal code. Apparently, one of our aristocrats was quite brutally assaulted a man suspected of carrying on an affair with his wife. Although arrested at the scene, he was released shortly thereafter due to inconsistencies in the law, as it applies to those with noble title. The incident has caused outrage among the people of Vyatka and has also divided court. Reformists, advocating as always for a more open and liberal society, strongly believe that the law should apply to everyone equally, regardless of status. Conversely, many of the older aristocrats believe that certain exemptions must be granted to the ruling class in order to maintain stability and continuity. The faction can not come to an agreement, and the Tsar must therefore make a decision. I don't know. Do we let the guy get away with assault? Or do we actually enforce the real law? I think I know what I want to do. I mean... unless the guy's name is O.J. Simpson, I don't think we're going to let him get away with this. We'll let him get away with worse if he did it, of course. But, you know, yeah, rule of law. Clinging to the past killed the Romanovs of old. Enforce the rule of law. It also helps our Lib Dem support, which is very nice. Fuck him. I don't know if we should go that far. I don't know if, there we go. We got loot, boys! Loot, loot! Let's get some workers. Let's get all our guys back. Who was the one with yeah, that guy? That depends how much money. Yeah, that's not a bad point. Alpha Storm, welcome by the way. Nice to see you. How you doing? There we go. I don't know what Bear Sneaky is doing right now, but it's not going well for them. Not enough to get his way out of this. That's what I've realized. Probably not enough to get out of this. Our mechanization is going up, and our literacy rate is going up. Civil Rights Act. We'll see whether or not they go with the game or not. Moderate austerity programs. We'll go. Probably public works projects, right? And we got a couple of good options overall, though. Maybe emigre support get more approval. Our popular support is still low, strangely enough. I'm hoping this isn't bugged. Please tell me this isn't bugged. It might be bugged. Electing Yaki is a small price to pay for the nice dark blue color it turns the country. Prove me wrong. It is a nice color, I will give you that. Let's go with the bishop. Historically, the role of the Orthodox Church in the Russian state was almost as central as that of the monarchy itself. Despite this, relationship between the Tsar and the Church in recent years has been, if not antagonistic, fairly cold. Many within believe the Tsar insufficiently pious, and this is beginning to affect his perceived legitimacy. A solution must be found, and quickly. The Diocese of Vyatka is currently vacant, and if a bishop were appointed, it would, in addition to publicly confirming the Tsar's dedication to the Church and acting to reaffirm his bond to it, provide valuable moral guidance to our citizens, ever in danger of being led astray. There we go. And we'll see what ends up happening in USA. Anything got for token civil rights? I gotta say, I think America is probably one of my favorite games. My favorite countries to play in TNO. It's just a fucking blast overall. And they do a great job with the Senate mechanic and all that. It works really well. There goes Tito. In fact, I think I'm gonna play the USA again when what's it called? The patch that adds content to Canada, Mexico, all that. I want to play the USA again because I know they're gonna add a new OFN mechanic, and that'll be cool. The newly appointed bishop of Vyatka, having completed the divine liturgy, stepped in front of a gathered congregation. Before him were the Orthodox faithful in the city, representing all stations and walks of life. The cathedral was plain, its interior undecorated, but the cross and the altar were all that one truly needed. Friends, the bishop began, raising his hands. Compatriots of Christ, it is no secret that Russia, the bastion of the Lord's true faith, is in great danger. We fight among ourselves, and the devil's own jackals rain death upon us from high above. But not all is lost. There is one man, one faithful servant of God, who stands against the darkness like a beacon. That man is Tsar Vladimir. He has blessed us with his patronage, and his armies have protected the faithful as best as they are able, turning the city into a bastion of godliness. Even now our congregation expands, bringing salvation, respite, and comfort to all those who need it. He took a step forward, looking at each other, each of those present in turn. The Tsar will lead us forward and shine the light of the Lord into all the shadowed corners of Russia where it has been suppressed. The bishop lowered his voice, imparting finality in his words. So say a prayer for the Tsar, my faithful, every night, because he prays for you. He prays for Russia, and he prays for the grace of God to return to his land. Amen. What else? Nest of Vipers, great game. Let's do some public works programs. Are there any unique events for Gus Hall if he's elected president and the communists reunify Russia? On their own, yes. I don't think together, though. Together, I don't think so. Two horrific wars, a breakdown of central authority, and the regular German bombing of anything of value has resulted in the almost complete destruction of any Russian infrastructure worthy of the name. In both our state and elsewhere, ordinary Russians rely on the local paths and trail guides for most travel. That naturally strangles trade, industrial and economic development, and military operations. It must be addressed. To solve this, Tsar and his government will fund public works projects throughout the Principality, building new infrastructure and repairing the old, while also providing some employment. The Germans will destroy some of it, of course, but we will maintain in commitment, whatever the cost. The future demands it. More industrial expertise and some extra infrastructure in our states, which we could use. We could use it. There's Niki is still friends with us, which I'm a little confused about. We can invest in infrastructure. That's not going to be worth it, really. We might save up, liquidate state assets. We'll get some loot. There's probably an event somewhere if Gus wins and Commies wins. It would make sense. Yeah, I can see it. I'm sure someone's made a super event for fan. Your relationship with your vassal currently. It's complicated. Yeah, you're not wrong. We'll go liquidate some state assets. The Tsar awoke to knock on his door. Vladimir had come to expect early morning interruptions. He could not recall once having a full night's sleep since establishing the fledgling empire of Vyatka. There was always some matter or another that required his attention. Luftwaffe's terror bombings were a threat that they could not yet contest. And though the men of the Imperial Army watched the borders, it was all too often they bled for it. That was not even to mention Vyatka's internal issues. From endless bickering around the monarchy's future to shattered economy, the keys of power had to be carefully managed. So it was in spite of a torturous migraine that the Tsar threw off his covers, dressed, and answered the door. Your Majesty, I beg your pardon for the interruption, but there's a man outside demanding a personal audience. He refuses to leave. He will not see reason. Vladimir frowned. Such strong-willed petitioners were not unheard of, but they usually saw reason at the end of a rifle if they did not relent. Were his own lifeguards afraid of a single persistent agitator? And why have you not made him leave? Your Majesty, the man claims he was a member of your cousin's Imperial Guard. That gave him pause. Such survivors were few and far between. Those that had not defected the Bolsheviks had fought them in the bloody aftermath of the revolution. Many had started new lives as emigres. More had died. If this man was who he said he was, what did he seek? Let him in. I'll speak to this man. Stepan Alexandrovich Novikov had not been what Tsar Vladimir expected. He was a weathered remnant of the past, leaning on a long, defunct rifle to support his weight. He was missing 2 fingers on his left hand, another on the right. His beard was gray and comically uneven, as if he tried to groom it for his audience. Most quaint of all, the old man was quite talkative, a trait not often sought in guards nor appreciated in the presence of emperors. Since introducing himself, he had hardly paused to breathe. Stepan spoke of his pride at being selected for Tsar Nicholas II's body Imperial Guard. He spoke of his disgust as hundreds of his compatriots abandoned their monarch in the face of a revolution. He spoke of his relief that he might fight for Tsar again in the White Army, then of his sorrow at their bitter defeat. He spoke of his refusal to serve the Union in his time as an emigre in France. He spoke of his return to Russia when France fell. He spoke of long years being spent in motherland that no longer felt like his own, watching it be torn apart first by oppression and second by invasion. He spoke of the thousands of men and women he saw die for a regime that did not value them. He spoke of war and slaughter and collapse, of a shattered Russia in need of hope. He spoke of trying to join the monarchists into the West Russian War, only to be captured by Soviets before he could. He spoke of imprisonment and hard labor and torture. He spoke of the daring escape that nearly cost him his life in his journey to Vyatka. He spoke until Vladimir interrupted him. "What is it that you ask of us?" Stefan finally paused to take a breath. "Your Majesty, I would like to serve in your lifeguard." One manpower, boys. Let's go. Woo! Huge. Okay, up. Public Works. Do the Imperial Bank of Russia. Increase our economy. Our popular support. Could also get working on starting the recovery right after, too. Huge, I know. Huge. The breakdown of Russia's industrial economy was accompanied by the breakdown of any reliable system of banking. The result has been the near-complete absence of appreciable investments or credit, lack of confidence in currencies, a return to the hoarding of precious materials, and the development of a barter-based economy among citizens. With the establishment of a public works and austerity program, the next step to rectify this critical issue is the creation of a central bank. Such a creation will help to legitimize, promote trust in, and set policy for our currency. Further, it will allow for both the stimulation and regulation of commercial and private lenders, encouraging economic growth in all sectors. Not bad. Fun fact, boys, did you know Merkel and the Kaiser and Hitler have the same national anthem? Really? That doesn't seem right. Is that true? Let's liquidate state assets. Oh man, stick fight the game. The SNB holds on in Scotland. Uh-oh. Oh, man, a lot of people are playing stick fight the game, apparently. What is England doing right now? Win with Wingate. Oh, okay, they're doing, the Resistance. Oh, they got the Deutschland over über alles, then. Okay, that makes more sense. Technically not the same anthem, though, then, right? Not the same song, at least. It was raining in Vyatka. While the sound of the storm would normally be soothing, it had become torturous to Vladimir. The Tsar's frequent migraines had worsened as of late, and every droplet landing on the window was like a fist to his head. Wasn't it enough that he had to deal with vicious shouting matches and dire budget reports during the day? Could his nights not be his own? Thunder struck again. Vladimir would find no respite in his chambers. He rose from his bed and grabbed his cigarette case. Maybe a walk would help. Halls of the imperial residence were sprawling, if sparse in decoration. It was laughable to call it a palace, honorific that Vladimir refused to bestow upon his current seat of power. But it was his, every splintered stairwell and every faded portrait. Would that be his legacy? Dust gathering on his likeness in some forsaken hall. The Tsar's musings were interrupted by a familiar voice. "Your Majesty, is everything okay? The hour is late." The newest and oldest member of Vladimir's lifeguard was nothing if not vigilant. In the hour since his induction, he had proven more than capable of performing duties that men half his age complained about. Vladimir considered his question. What harm was there in being candid with a man sworn to him? No, my head is fucking killing me. Shall I send for the doctor, Your Majesty? There was concern in his eyes. Genuine. Vladimir waved a hand dismissively, drawing a cigarette out from its case and offering it to his venerable protector. No. But you can have a smoke with me. And you can listen. Uneasy as a head that wears the crown. The Imperial Bank of Russia. Beautiful. Stepan is a G. Stepan is a total G. Let's do something else. Do we want to start the recovery? I think we might want to start the recovery. Get our poverty rate out from the dumpster that it's in. The light can finally be seen. Although painful, the austerity measures we imposed managed to prevent total collapse. And strategic investments are finally beginning to have an effect. Economic activity has sharply increased, and new workshops and industries have begun to appear organically. We must remain vigilant, however, expanding previously reduced programs as revenues rise and instituting reforms as needed. The road ahead to complete unification under the Tsar is and will be a long one, but we have done what we can to give ourselves and our people the best start possible. There we go.